Agriculture has been a part of our life from ages immemorial. Vedas also have emphasized timely rain, greenery in the country, lack of hunger. Kale varshatu parjanya, pruthivi sasyashalini, desoyam kshopharahitam. So a good agriculture and a green country would make the people devoid of hunger. They also emphasize the need for living in harmony with nature, which today we are re-emphasizing as sustainable agriculture and sustainable development. Agriculture still plays a very important role, though a declining one in the economy. Though its overall share in GDP fell from 30% in early 90s to about 17.5% or so in 2006. Still, this is higher than the share of agriculture in GDP of other relevant BRIC countries like China and Brazil. Overall, with a more or less stagnant industrial sector, the rapid growth in India is happening in the service sector. But still the population is concerned, agriculture still employs about 60% of the labor force, down from about 70% in the early 90s. The stickiness of labor to agricultural sector is attributed to low labor mobility and slow growth in productivity in agriculture. But I put it in a different way, in the sense part of the main problem for this labor to move from agriculture to other sector is the type of development that is taking place in service sector is happening at a level of technology where those who are found surplus in agriculture cannot get automatic employment. So there's a real dichotomy unless we have a very substantial HRD going around and skill upgradation and make these people employable in service sector. The rapid growth of service sector by itself may not absorb this surplus labor from the agriculture. A major problem for policymakers is going to be how best to either productively give employment to this labor force in agriculture itself or ensure development of that level of service and industrial sector where even with low levels of skill, still these people can find employment. And if this is not addressed properly and employment opportunities are not created to this segment of the rural population, the same can result in large-scale social unrest and other problems. It is in this context a more productive development of agriculture in a sustainable manner becomes relevant, and a dynamic partnering and innovations can only be the answer to develop such a sustainable production in agricultural sector. There is no other sector in the Indian economy where politics are interwoven as in the case of agriculture, and in the process becoming a major hindrance in developing the sector in a productive and sustainable manner. The issues are highly sensitive in nature, and unless the policy initiatives are well thought out and are done in small steps, the backlash itself may lead to a much bigger negative impact. All through the world, there are two major subsidies. Once introduced, it is very difficult to get out of them. One is the agricultural subsidy, the other is the food subsidy. Across the world, the experience shows that once introduced, whichever government tried to wriggle out of them had to pay a very heavy price. It is a fact that these subsidies are the least efficient and most trade distorting instruments of support, but still options of going with more efficient and less trade distorting initiatives need to be thought over very carefully, introduced very selectively to avoid a large-scale negative backlash. It is not just the welfare of the farmer that is going to be issue in this. There are also a number of vested interests which have got built around these subsidies, and they would very strongly manipulate to ensure that they are sustained in the same manner. One of the major complaints that is generally made against Indian agriculture is that, because Upur also made a reference to it, that the holdings are very small and the level of investments are less and there is no productivity growth. A rough estimate shows that 60% of the farmers have less than 1 hectare of land, but overall they farm 17% of the land, whereas those who have more than 4 hectares account for 40% of the land. I feel it's a fallacy to say that small holdings are impediment to proper agricultural growth. In fact, the small holdings are at a very low level of investment and they are at a very low level of investment and at a very low level of productivity is a testimony to the major policy failure in not being able to give them the necessary support and investment to make these small holdings more productive, giving higher level of incomes. It's also a major policy failure of not developing large number of small scale industries dispersed all across the country, which would have over years absorbed some of these small landholders or given them additional employment opportunities and income. This looks to be one of the major plus points of Chinese development, where a large-scale labor incentive small industries have played an important role in augmenting rural incomes. This can also be a model to be adopted in the long run for Indian rural sector. An imaginative catalytic role to be played by the government in bringing private capital into play for setting up of agricultural, allied processing, marketing, manufacturing facilities can go a long way in this regard. Contract farming can fill in the required gaps in ensuring technological transfer and building up productivity gains to small holdings of these farmers. If the size of the plot is going to be an issue with reference to productivity, 40% of the land which is in the hands of the farmers who are having more than 4 hectares should be higher. I am sure the same may not be the case if a study is undertaken, since the bigger farmers tend to neglect the land and agriculture, as he would have other non-agricultural activity which becomes his major concern, and his agricultural activity will only be a subsidiary activity, whereas for the small farmer it is the main activity. And we have these theories of intensive labor exploitation resulting in higher productivity. Maybe he may not have the right investment, right technology. That's where the private sector will have to fit in, with the government playing an overall catalytic role.